Why do kids and young adults say "Okay, Boomer" so much? I mean, the meme's almost dead, I think, but it's still doing its rounds around the internet. I've always pondered this deep philosophical existential question of why "Okay, Boomer" became so popular. And it's apparently a meme that's shared by millennials and Gen Z. And then people are basically um, using it just in absurdist humor, and they just use it out of context just to be even sillier with it. But when it first came out, people were pretty offended, especially the boomers. And I think I figured it out. I'm Chris. I do a show called Awake. There's a little trailer for it coming up this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I like to try to dissect the culture and the cultural and spiritual norms of our time. And yeah, there's for the longest time, there's been just such angst against this particular generation of parents. Um, why there are different reasons depending on who is being raised. The Gen Xers have a different reason than the millennials and the Gen Z. Um, so I can't really say it's like a particular political reason, because politics changes very quickly. But I will say that there's a spiritual reason that I think Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z all can vibe with. And that vibe is they're confused in the do as I say, not as I do mentality of the boomers. They're also very rebellious and spiteful against the boomers because they're being raised in a Christian ethos by boomer pagans. Boomer paganism. What are you talking about? That's the title of the episode of my show. Well, the truth is, if you really, if you just decide to take a 0.1% more time out of your week to read the Bible, this right here, and you look at the fundamental basics um, of the Christian faith, you'll read some things that you may just hide from because it just seems so daunting, but there are also some other things that are quite eye-opening, such as in Revelations, where the Lord is approached by a lot of fake Christians and lukewarm people that don't really care, but they have the facade of religion. He says, "Depart from me, I never knew you. You never quacked a quack." What, Lord? What do you mean we get to go? We can't make it to heaven? In any other situation, like a job or any other thing we actually put our energy in, or sports, we would be instantly fired for our laziness. But you mean to tell me that the God of the universe expects some standards out of his own disciples? What? Right? And then there's also things like, ooh, this little ditty: love your Lord with your heart, mind, soul, and strength. That one, the great commandment. Like, and of course, that's a little bit hard to grasp because you need God to transform you to love Him more. And that's what this channel does. But it's still something we got to aim for. Oh, how about the fruits of the Holy Spirit and the attributes of love? We say God is love, but what does that mean? Everyone wants to say God is love and leave it at that. But kindness, gentleness, compassion, justice, courage, self-control, um, all those things, love is patient, love is kind. Kids aren't as stupid as you think they are. They see the behavior of their parents and they could tell they can smell BS much better than some adults often. And they can see right through it, even if it's their own parents. And that's why it happens. That's why there's all this disrespect. But the fact is that Jesus came into a time where the Jews were very worldly. They were taken over by the Romans, and not only were they taken over by the Romans, it was twofold. They lost their national identity, and they also walked away from their faith, or were walking away once again from their faith. And most of the people that Jesus rebuked were the Jews, especially the Pharisees, but also just worldly people. He wasn't talking to people that didn't know God. He talked to his own people who knew better, and he was very hard on particular categories of people, like people that make money their God, people that make pleasure their God, people that make even religion their God in a weird sense, where, like the Pharisees, where they talked a big game, but they didn't really have any spirituality or experience of God. They were empty, they were whitewashed tombs, as he said, you know. They just used their religion as moralism instead of going beyond that. Of course, he never said that the morals and commandments of God were no longer valid, but he did say you need to be greater than the Pharisees. So, how many times have you gone beyond, you know, your own this is right, this is wrong, eye for an eye in your life, and tried to go the extra mile and be kind and compassionate and introspective in the way you treat others, you know? And it's baby steps. None of us will be perfect, but that's what he meant. So, OK Boomer is, you know, went off like a wildfire. You know, it went off like a nuke because it's a way, it's a catharsis. It's a way for people that are younger to really just disgrace what they see as hypocritical parents. Because these parents, whether even though they don't realize it, are practicing a form of neo-Roman paganism. And that's what we're going to be discussing on the show. You have to understand how paganism works. You know, regardless of whether or not a pagan belief system believes in superhuman entities that control the universe, like the Greeks or the Egyptians or Norse, or whether they're more pantheistic and those gods to them represent the concepts of metaphysical reality and other forms of reality. Paganism is usually in the Western paganism that we read about in all the mythological books, Zeus, Aphrodite, and etc., involves the fetishization, the idolization of one part of reality that you prefer, your own little preference. And although you pay respect to the king god, you may pay, which could be the state, like the Roman emperor or Jupiter or Saturn or Zeus, you still, in your heart of hearts, truly worship Aphrodite, Bacchus, Athena, Hephaestus, Ares, you know? And I'm going to bring up more which validate my point here. What if you don't really, in your heart of heart, worship and love God? What if you are lying to yourself? And it's okay to lie. It's okay to realize you've been lying to yourself because you got to start somewhere. And I will try to help people unravel this issue. But because of man's fallen nature, I think that paganism is a more natural disposition. That's why God had to come in and correct the Jews and constantly intervene, because our natural inclinations is to pick a temporal good. Because after all, you know, any young people watching, you know that your parents' eyes don't light up nearly as much when talking about God versus sports, or you know, making making a higher profit. Of course, maybe this doesn't apply to lower economic classes, but in the middle and higher classes, oh yeah. Now you should forgive them because it isn't completely their fault. There's just been so much watering down, but we got to start somewhere here. So, if you're interested on more of this, or if you just want to watch the video and call it a day, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And I will put the link of my show in the description, Sunday 1 p.m. Eastern. And I will also put a link to my playlist, which I'm adding some of my new episodes in. So if you really like my stuff, you can just check out all of it and just see me go out into hyperspace and, you know, trip out on my own thoughts and prayer experiences, and give my unique take to the whole world that we're living in 2020. What a year it's been. All right, take care and God bless.